Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while, but today I thought I'd give you a showcase of my painted German Afrika Korps for the game Bolt Action. I've been painting this army since I think June or July this summer, and I just finished it a couple of weeks ago for a tournament in Denmark, which you can read more about in the blog linked in the description below. So first up, I have a lieutenant here. This attendant standing looking through his binoculars, scanning the battlefield, and the attendant as well. Both of them are armed with SMGs, and I usually run my lieutenant teams as two guys. It's nice to have the small team rule, and the SMGs really help out when they need to support the infantry or put some extra pin markers before assaulting an enemy unit. So that's how I've been running them. Behind the staff team here we have two units of grenadiers. Both are 8-man strong with rifles, and the NCOs have SMGs, and there is one light machine gun as well in each squad, you can see here. All of the miniatures are Perry miniatures from their metal Afrika Korps range. And I really try to give the impression of a ragtag force here. So I try to use a lot of different colors. I did some research on colorized pictures, and it seems like the Afrika Korps had a few different colors on their uniforms, since not all of them got the desert clothing in time. So we have some gray uniforms, some semi-green uniforms, as you can see here, and some of them even have the desert colored fatigues. All of the helmets, of course, have been painted in a desert color, as I think they would have done that in the field, even though they didn't get the desert equipment in time. So moving on to support, we have a MMG team here, also from Perry Miniatures, as you can see. Let's see if we get it to focus, like so. Tripod with an MG34, and I really like the buzzsaw rules for the German MMGs, although taking an MMG in a competitive list might not be the best choice, but I like the look of the MMG team, so I usually play it. Moving back, we have a light howitzer here. The gun itself is from the Warlord Games range, the early war German infantry gun, and this loader as well is from that range. Since I didn't have enough crew guys from the Perry range to crew it. I really like taking the howitzer. The mortar, of course, is a good choice, but the howitzer can also dig out the infantry and put pins on units or vehicles, so I think it's a solid choice. Unfortunately, you can't get a spotter, but I think it can do good on its own if you just deploy it right. Next to the howitzer we have a medic. And this guy is actually a tank crew from the Perry range that I converted up. I made a small medic bag from green stuff, as you can see here, and also an arm patch with the white cross. I really don't think the medic is a good choice, but I just took him because I needed an extra dice and I didn't have enough models to fill out my army, so that's why I've been running him. Also, he's pretty good at running up alone and grabbing objectives. If your opponent doesn't pay attention to it, he can really get deep far up the board, and that's what I think probably is the only use for him right now. We have some Panzerjger, like the German equivalent of a paratrooper unit. I have 8 of them, or I actually have 10, but I'm using 8 of them as paras. These guys are really fun to play with. Usually they perform very well because they're stubborn, so they won't flee as easily, and they usually go in and grab objectives and yeah, just hunker down until the end of the game, really. Painting the camo smocks was quite tough. I had to repaint it twice before I felt that I matched the real camo pattern of the Panzerjger. And also these guys all have the desert fatigue or desert clothing on their uniforms because they were prioritized for the desert campaign, I think. I have 3 SMGs in the squad and the rest are rifles, so no LMG teams right now. And as I said, I have 8, but I'm actually using 2 of them as a sniper team because I don't have a sniper right now. So my sniper team is actually also a paratrooper guy, proning and taking a shot while his spotter is observing the effects. The sniper teams are really fun to play. I think they perform very well in most games. Even if they don't kill anything, they just make your opponent play to your game, actually, not putting any officers or spotters out in the open. So moving on to the vehicles. I have quite a lot of vehicles. I don't use all of them. I just like some of the vehicles, that's why I bought and painted them. Some of them were on sale when I got them, and I think all of them are from Warlord Games, except for the truck back here, which we can start with. This is on a Rubicon truck. Rubicon makes great models, and I really like the simplicity of the kit, but it's also very detailed if you compare it to most other kits out there. So it was very easy to build, very detailed though, and I also took the time to install a windshield in the driver's compartment. So this usually goes with my paratroopers for outflanking. They will just zoom up the board in the middle of the field and get out and take an objective. Moving on, we have an odd transport here. This is actually the regular Hanomag transport, the SDKFC 250, but this one is armed with a PAK 36 light anti-tank gun. And I tried to use this in my early games with this army, and I'm quite fond of it, but in the competitive list it just never finds its place, so it hasn't seen that much action lately, which is a bit disappointing because it's a really cool model, having a half-track with a anti-tank gun on top. This one is from Warlord Games, and I think I made a speed build video on the channel where I built it, so you can check that out if you want to. Moving on to the scout car, the SDKFZ 222, which is a really nice scout car. This kit is from Warlord Games as well. The only thing I don't like about this one is that the tires are a bit, or the wheels are a bit small, and they should be bigger because it was quite tall, this vehicle. If you compare it to an infantryman down here, the vehicle should be maybe this tall compared to him. Overall, it's a nice kit. This vehicle usually performs very well. It can recce up. It has an autocannon, it has an MMG, so you can really harass enemy infantry with it. And it's quite small, so you can easily hide it when you play, which is a really fun way to play with vehicles. You have this strange tank here, the Panzerjger. It's based off of the Panzer 1, I think, or Panzer 2 chassis, with a mounted medium anti-tank gun and a gun shield. So it has this weird silhouette. This one I've only played like twice, and usually it just stands in the backfield putting rounds down on enemy armor, but it rarely achieves anything other than that. So this is just a fun vehicle. I think it's iconic of the early war period when they experimented with a lot of different builds, and it looks kind of nice actually, not to have big tanks running around all of the time. We have 2 Panzer 3s, which is a really nice wrestling kit, also from Warlord Games. And the crewman up there chilling is from Perry Miniatures. Some stowage, I think some of it are from Rubicon, and some is like green stuff that I put back there. And these 2 I got because there was a sale in one of the shops here in Sweden, so I purchased 2 of them. They were really fun to paint. It's fun to paint something other than just infantry for this game. And what's nice about the desert theater is that you can make a lot of vehicles really look grimy and weathered, and like they've been in the environment for a long time. This one has a bit more of an improvised armor type of stowage, a lot of tracks, extra spare wheels, and yeah. Alright, moving on to the final vehicle of the army. This one is actually my favorite, which I play a lot. It's the Stug, and it's the early Stug, which has a light howitzer mounted in the hull, as you can see here. The crew once again is from Perry. The kit is from Warlord, and some stowage that I just salvaged from other kits. And this is a really nice resin kit. The only down part is that I found out a couple of weeks ago that there's a problem with the resin mix. So if you look underneath, you can see that it's bleeding through the paint, and it's also bleeding through the primer, which is a problem. I really don't hope it eats its way up, but as you can see on the front, it's quite shiny. I tried to varnish this again, but still the paint chips off if you touch this shiny part here. So I emailed Warlord about it because I really like to play this tank, and they said they probably had a problem with the resin mix, so they were kind enough to send me a new one, which was nice. The only down part, of course, is that I have to paint another Stug, and I'm not sure if I'll paint a new one for the Desert Corps or if I'll keep it for another army that I'll paint later. So yeah, this is the army. I think it comes in around 1500 points or 1600 points if I take everything. Usually we play like 1000 points or 1250, but now I have the options, and I really like the Desert Theater. It's quite odd when you compare it to more of the late war stories. The theater was like a tug of war in North Africa, and it has a lot of like fun units and strange battles, and the Italians were there and some Free French were there, and yeah, a lot of stuff happened down there that we just don't hear about because there's a lot of focus on Europe when you study the Second World War. Please put some comments down below if you want to ask me anything or if you want to know anything about the army. From now on, I'm going to be moving on to Europe, so I'll be painting up a new force. Probably not going to use the Perry miniatures. I'm going to go more for the Warlord heroic scale because the Perrys are quite thin compared to other manufacturers. So when you play against other people that don't have the Perry rules or the Perry miniatures, they look quite small. Even though I like the Perry sculpts, they're nice, but the scale is quite small, so it's only suitable if you play against other people with these miniatures. Please hit the like button, write me a comment if you wonder anything, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.